Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Epic Comic Book Wednesday. This is a world's finest collaboration between Michael K. Vaughan and myself, where we combine the forces of stately Vaughan Manor and Hyde Cottage to talk about comic books. Some theme, some particular run on a comic, some idea or superhero concept, and it's all Mike's choosing. I horned my way into a simple tour of his epic collections years ago, and for that effrontery, he did not kick me to the curb, but he did maintain control over where we go. So he gets to pick what we're going to talk about. And I never know what that's going to be. Sometimes he picks something good, and sometimes he picks something that he likes. and this week, he picked a weird thing, something that I haven't even thought about since I bought these issues when they first came out, much less reread. This is called Marvel Superhero Contest of Champions, in which two cosmic guys, let me see if I can ever find them on screen together. Two cosmic guys. Marvel is full of cosmic beings. Yeah, there we go. There they are. Just summarily abduct a whole bunch of super beings from Earth. Almost all of them are abducted. As you can tell from this cover, Marvel fans will be able to identify everyone on that cover, almost everyone on that cover. A huge number of Marvel superheroes are abducted by these two beings and transported somewhere. We're not sure where. This is written by Mark Gruenwald, Bill Mantlo, and Stephen Grant, all three of whom, well, Stephen Grant I don't really know, but Gruenwald and Mantlo should have known better. They certainly should have done a better job than this. And the artwork is by John Romita Jr. It's very early John Romita Jr. artwork with heavy inks by, who does the, Pablo Marcos, who is a very heavy-handed inker. No wonder. This almost never feels like John Romita Jr. artwork. But these heroes are all abducted in the opening pages of the first issue of this miniseries into a gigantic panel. Look at that. Where the heck are we? Look at all of those characters. Utterly ridiculous. They're all abducted to this hallway, even though only a handful of them are going to be used in the eponymous Contest of Champions. Because the two all these heroes are meeting Thor, and the Alpha Flight meets Wolverine. Here we have what is going to be a little sub-theme of the whole thing, because this isn't just the Marvel heroes that you're really familiar with. It's also a bunch of stupid, also-ran cereal box Marvel heroes that are meant to be the heroes of their nation. There's the Shamrock as the hero of Ireland. Blitzkrieg is the hero of Van West Germany. The Arabian Knight is the hero of Persia, and Captain Britain is the hero of... It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And so we have these people meet. We have... for instance, this is my favorite one, where Shamrock meets Captain Britain, and she says, "You wear the emblem of Great Britain," and he says, "And you the green of Ireland." But I think he's probably checking out her four-leaf clover, if you know what I mean. That crops up over and over again in this issue, is that these characters don't really have a right to like each other. There's also weird posing. Spider-Woman is hanging out asking questions of Spider-Man. Of course, nobody knows where this is. Why would any of them interrogate each other about this when they were all transported there at the same time? Would you do that? Would you rest your arm like that in order to talk to somebody upside down? No, I don't think you would. But this issue, all of our heroes meet, and then they are told that they must go on a mission. Some of them, a tiny handful of them, just this handful. So you had what was probably, conservatively speaking, 500 characters, but you're not going to be dealing with 500 characters, even though we see them all get abducted individually. You're dealing with just these people, just a couple of dozen people. And if you're a Marvel fan, you will notice, oh, I recognize some of those. Oh, wait, I don't recognize a lot of them. No, yeah, you don't recognize a lot of them. And even this panel is deceptive. The Hulk, Thor are not part of these contests, but the ones you don't recognize are all the lame-ass nationalistic heroes. But even when we start off with a nice double-page spread by John Romita Jr., but it's dumb. It's dumb. Once you start reading it, it's dumb. Up on the upper deck there, Iron Man is asking the Vision if he wants to jog another lap. Why would Iron Man be jogging in his armor? Why would he be doing that? And why would Vision need to jog at all? Vision's a synthetic being. He can't improve by exercise. What? It's just ridiculous. It's just... And that's not the only thing. Like, for instance, in the foreground here, we have Scarlet Witch asking Wonder Man, this lame-ass third-rate hero, Wonder Man, if he wants to put on more weight. He's lifting weights in this exercise session. And he says, I think I need more weight, Wanda. I'm not even working up a sweat. First of all, Wonder Man is an ionic being. He doesn't sweat. And Scarlet Witch said, oh, how much more, Wonder Man? You're pressing 2 tons now. First of all, why does he call her Wanda when she calls him by his code name? But also, Wonder Man can lift 100 tons. If he's lifting 2 tons here, that's the equivalent of you going to your Attila's gym in New Jersey and having a choice between 60-pound plates, 30-pound plates, 100-pound plates, or 6-ounce plates. You don't have the choice of a 6-ounce plate. Because it's a minuscule amount of weight. No amount of work will ever give you a workout. So it's ridiculous that he would even be at 2 tons. That he could lift that literally without thinking about it. But we get a MacGuffin. These 2 cosmic beings are splitting this MacGuffin into 4 pieces, and they're each picking a team of heroes, and these teams of heroes have to go to far-flung exotic locations. And the winning team will be the one that grabs the MacGuffin, while literally all the other heroes just stand around waiting. They're not at home. They're not on Earth. They're just standing around waiting. Why? I have no idea. Why these writers, who again ought to know better, didn't just pluck these heroes, just the ones they need? I have no idea. No idea at all. But nevertheless, we get our first contest, in which 6 characters are transported to the freezing wastes of a blizzard in the Arctic. Now, some of these characters you're going to recognize. Daredevil, of course, you're going to recognize. These 2, Darkstar and Talisman, you won't know. That is a mutant named Sunfire. There's Sue Richards of the Fantastic Four and Iron Fist. And they have to fight each other while looking for a MacGuffin in the middle of an ice field, in the middle of a snowstorm, on an ice floe. And I want to point something out here, just as a spoil sport. Sue Richards can project force fields around herself. We always see them as bubbles around her, but presumably she could project a force field 1 inch away from her skin in all directions, as basically an exoskeleton. So she has the ability to protect herself from the cold. And Sunfire is a mutant who generates heat and plasma, so I doubt he would be vulnerable to the cold. Darkstar, I don't know much about the character. She has energy abilities, so I would think maybe that would protect her, except that in panels we see that she is visibly cold. that she is, here's a panel where she's actually hunched over and shivering. So the cold obviously does affect her. I don't know enough about her to really make the claim, but aside from that, this man is naked. And Daredevil and Iron Fist are wearing leotards. And I know this is a comic book, but Stan Lee's the one who introduced verisimilitude. A naked man would die in about 15 minutes. He would certainly be non-responsive in about 15 minutes. He wouldn't be fighting anybody. He would just be dying. And so would Daredevil, and so would Iron Fist. Instead, they fight. And it's not very satisfying, I have to say. I like John Romita Jr.'s artwork, of course I do, but it's not very satisfying. Like, for instance, Daredevil and Iron Fist square off. Daredevil has a radar sense. He's blind, but he has a radar sense that gives him a finely tuned perception of what other people are doing. But he is a brawler. He knows how to box. And maybe a little of acrobatics. Iron Fist is one of the greatest unarmed combat specialists in the world. So this should not be a fight at all. Instead, it's not only a fight, but an incredible fight. Iron Fist is incapacitated when Daredevil reaches down and makes a snowball. For God's sake, that is just utterly ridiculous. Not only should these 2 be dead by now, they should be frozen to death by now. It's no small thing. It's not just, a windy day in Central Park. This is deadly. The weather that these characters are facing here is probably 40 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit, which means a naked man, which is what 3 of these men are, would die pretty quickly. 15 minutes at the most. They wouldn't be fighting. They'd be desperately hoping for some sort of survival. They would all be asking Sunfire to help them live. None of them do it. But not only that, not only do Daredevil and Iron Fist just duke it out brainlessly when that wouldn't be happening, but when they're done, Daredevil jumps into the water. After the MacGuffin, he jumps into the water. He would die instantly. That would be instant hypothermia. There wouldn't be any story. You could say I'm nitpicking, but why not transport them without any kind of exo gear to the plains of Mars? If you're going to do this, why not do that? They couldn't live. Half these people would die instantly. But anyway, that is the first run, and then we get the second group, and they appear in an Old West town. And again, some of these characters you might recognize. Iron Man and She-Hulk. But the rest of these, that's Captain Britain. This is some guy from Paraguay or something like that. The woman way in the background, this woman here, is called Sabra. If you paid real close attention, you would have seen her in a recent Marvel movie, the Sam Wilson Captain America movie. She's not called much in that movie because she's an Israeli superhero. And the Israeli government right now is engaged in the first full-scale, absolutely unquestionable war crime of the 21st century. So this was done long before that, but you gotta downplay that. And then there's the Arabian Knight, who has no interest in working alongside an Israeli. So you've got these insuperable political problems that nothing would come of them. And you get just John Romita Jr. layouts, which, are going to get much better. You can see something of what this artist is going to become. That kind of a setup of a panel becomes very familiar to him, but it's all very boring. These are second-rate characters. And then we move on to the third issue, where we learn that one of the two cosmic beings is death. And here we get yet more combat. This time in the wilds of... is this the Pampas of New Mexico or something like that? It's South America. Well, this is anyway temperate. It's temperate. And we have two teams. So we have the Thing from the Fantastic Four and Wolverine and this French guy who can fly. And then in the distance there, you can barely make them out here, you have the Black Panther and Warren Worthington III, the Angel from the X-Men, and a Russian superhero named Vanguard, who doesn't appear to have much in the way of superpowers. These are not even teams at all. I should point out, these are not even teams. The Thing is more powerful than all the rest of these people put together. But sure enough, they decide that, they've got to fight, they've got to duke it out in order to find the right MacGuffin. And that leads to trouble. Like, for instance, the Black Panther faces off against Wolverine. And Wolverine immediately starts to try to kill him. Not to try to defeat him or to get the MacGuffin first, but to murder him. And I know that Wolverine is just this ironclad, bulletproof fan favorite of a comic book character, but I might point out that Black Panther should be able to beat him. It shouldn't be that hard. You've got the Angel fighting against another guy who can fly, and the Angel correctly points out that why is this guy seeming to beat me when I'm the guy who invented the whole flying superhero thing? And then you've got the Thing versus this Vanguard loser, which is, nothing really comes of it. The most interesting thing about this issue when the fighting is over is that the Thing, first of all, he dispatches Vanguard with one punch, but then he finds Wolverine and Black Panther still fighting each other and says something that he ought to say, he ought to act on it as well. He says, "Squirt, just what in blazes do you think you're doing?" And Wolverine says, "Eliminating the opposition, ugly. Any objections?" And the Thing says, "One, the Panther's a pal of mine. Seems nobody told you this is just some kind of game, Pipsqueak." Yeah. And Black Panther points out, well, I wasn't beaten yet. But still, I guess I've never really understood why anybody in the Marvel Universe puts up with Wolverine. I don't know why they allow him to do this kind of crap. I mean, Black Panther will now remember for the rest of time, and so will the Thing, that this guy was trying to kill him when that isn't part of the rules, when no one else has tried to do that. Anyway, the final pairing here takes place deep in the Amazon jungle, in a tropical jungle. So 100% humidity, 99 degrees Fahrenheit. We have two groups. The one at the top there has only one recognizable character, and that is Storm from the X-Men. Then you've got this Chinese guy and the Shamrock girl, whose superpower is the luck o' the Irish. She's lucky. She causes things to happen in her favor. Just like Black Cat, because most of the writers at Marvel at this time were reflexive sexists. I will give them credit that they weren't active sexists, but they were reflexive sexists. They were afraid to give female characters significant superpowers. And on the other side, we have this guy is Blitzkrieg, the West Berlin superhero. What does he do all day? What do these nationalistic heroes do all day? Actually, we see a little bit of what Shamrock does. When she is abducted at the beginning of the first issue, she is saving some children from a terrorist bomb. That is what it's called. Which means she probably doesn't have much of an argument with Captain Britain. No, I don't want to wade into murky political waters here. But if she thinks it's a terrorist bomb, then she's probably okay with Captain Britain. But the tall, woolly guy there is Sasquatch. Not my Sasquatch, but a hero on the Canadian super team Alpha Flight. Basically a big woolly Hulk. And, of course, Captain America. And again, as a contest, this is ridiculous. Because Sasquatch has class 100 strength. He's as strong as the Hulk. But nevertheless, our heroes face off against each other. Blitzkrieg has lightning-based powers. Storm can summon lightning. Shamrock girl, Lucko the Irish lass, takes on Captain America and uses her amazing luck powers. And Sasquatch is plowing through the jungle, and he's sweating like a stuck pig because it's so hot and humid, and he's a gigantic, matted, furry creature. And he says, perhaps I should transform back to my non-human, hairy self before I get heat stroke, but then I might as well have sent anyone to compete. You can transfer back. Right? You are going to get heat stroke. You can transform back into your form. Anyway, he fights this collective guy, and Storm fights Blitzkrieg, and Captain America, who's also sweating like a stuck pig. He's wearing chainmail in the middle of the Amazon rainforest. He fights Shamrock Girl, and her luck manifests because she's running away from Captain America when suddenly a python appears. Ah! And it attacks Captain America. Oh no, why did it attack Shamrock? In order for a python to do this to you, it would need about 2 days. Just about 2 days to do that. They're not fast-moving animals. But they have to find the MacGuffin as well, and then everybody's brought back, and the pieces of the MacGuffin are put together, and the identity of the other person, Death, is revealed. And then, believe it or not, everybody is sent home. Whoopsies. Bye. Utterly awful. Just a stupid waste of time. I think there was some sort of marketing thing behind this. Usually with Marvel, that's the case. Maybe Michael K. Vaughan knows more about that than I do. But as a thing to revisit. Oh, God. None of it makes any sense. Why kidnap every superhero on Earth if you're not going to use them? And if you've kidnapped every superhero on Earth, why pick those weird teams? I think the goal was to have all those lame-ass international heroes in the thing, in the book. Which makes me think maybe this coincided with some sort of international thing. Maybe the UN or something like that. It's the only reason I can think of why you would have lame-ass characters like the Arabian Night or Shamrock Girl or whatever. The only part of this that was in any way interesting was looking at this journeyman John Romita Jr. artwork. Because he becomes one of my favorite comic book artists. Bar none. So that was it. And there's not much of that here. So that's your Epic Comic Book Wednesday for today. I have to think that next week will be better, but who knows? Given that it's Michael K. Vaughan, it might be worse. We'll find out together. I'll wrap this up for now, and I will see you then. Thank you, BookTube.